Glad to see them go, but glad to see new faces too. Thank you very much. And that would take us to number 2, public comment. Is there anyone signed up?
Madam Chairman, there's no one signed up.
With that, we'll go to the approval and signing of the minutes from the January 18th, 2018 regular meeting. Are there any comments on the minute meeting? And if not, do I have a motion to approve? Second. Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes. And that would take us now to number 4, the review and approval of our financial report for December 7th, 2017 and January 2018.
Good evening, Rosa Goldman, Chief Financial Officer. From your packet, if you like to look at the tab in orange, that's where we have the financial report. And we are presenting the balance sheet, the report of revenues, expenditures, and changes in cash balance, the investment report, and the note to the financial report for both months, December 2017 and January 2018. So you may flip through the pages to see those reports that I have just mentioned for the 2 months, which are December and January. As you can see, we have no negative variances. We are still within the budget for these 4 months of the fiscal year. And our encumbered funds are still $400,000 for the litigation reserve, meaning we haven't used any of that yet. Are there any questions?
If there are no questions or comments, we have a motion. A second.
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Motion made and seconded to approve our financial report for December 17 and January 18 as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That would take us to our monthly health benefit report.
Right, which is the page right after the reports. So we have, actually, we have all the months of this fiscal year. We have October 2017, November, December, and then January 2018. And then we have a balance for each of those months. So we see that as of the end of January 2018, we had a balance of $533,436. That's the balance just for the health and dental plan.
And that would just be for information only.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gold.
Thank you.
Take us now to number 6, discussion and possible action regarding our EPCAD investment policy.
We wanted to make sure that everybody received the entire policy. There was some folks in the January meeting that had not received this. This is the investment policy that even though we're not allowed to vest in long term, as the taxing entities pay into us, we have to have some sort of a policy in place as to what we do with those. We put them in CDs or whatever we need to. So the policy is looked at every year by our auditor, and there was some changes that were recommended by our auditor. Page 404, there was only a couple of changes, and that was to make us the same language as in the actual law that deals with this information. I can tell you, it's the government code, Title 10, General Government, and it was under general provisions, and it was definitions, and we just needed to clarify those. That is the only change that the auditor and that staff is recommending.
And so does everyone see that change? Mm-hmm. Is everybody good with any questions on the change?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Motion made and seconded to approve the EPCAD's investment policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And
Madam Chairman, who
yes,
seconded?
ma'am.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
We had 2.
Oh, okay.
Meeny, meeny, miny, moe.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Take us to number 7, discussion and possible action regarding our agreement for legal services.
Yes, ma'am. This was also brought up, and it was stated that the board members would like me to put together a recommendation. I did send that along with the entire contract So we, again, are recommending that we stay with the law firm of Purdue, Brandon, Calder, Fielder, and Mott at the rates that they've requested. We did some research. We found that there may be a law firm that is a little bit less, but they also charge a retainer. So it comes out to a little bit more. There is a couple of law firms that are very specific as to where they operate or who their clients are. They're more of a center client situation because it is large, or they do a lot of collections, and we don't do collections here. So our recommendation is based on the research that we did of the 3 or 4 law firms that are out there, that this is still the best bang for the buck.
With that said, do we have any discussion, questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed on the attachments, the second document is a certificate of interested parties. I don't understand what that's for. What is it for?
It's required by state law. Anybody that does business with your government must submit that. And it is not simply confined to, for example, relationships with the entity, but with any person who works in the entity. While we don't allow this in our law firm anyway, we like to keep everything clean right from the get-go, and our reputation's our most important thing. There are many who, especially in local situations, where they'll seek to have a business relationship with a voting member of an entity outside of the relationship with the entity. And this is something legislature put in place to require disclosure of that, not only by the vendor, but also by any member of the governing body or member of the staff for which that might be the case. And so it very closely restricts what type of interaction that somebody that does business with an entity can do, and it requires complete transparency of that at the same time. That's the purpose behind that certificate. It's required for any time the contract is renewed, and it is something that you should be accustomed to seeing after a bit with these types of circumstances. You should always have that type of disclosure when you have when you're going in. Same thing when a bid is made, when you're being considered. We have to submit this sort of thing.
Did that take care of it for you?
Just one more question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mott, I noticed that on your letterhead, there's 5 names, but on the form, there's only 4. Why the difference?
Got me. I didn't prepare this.
Okay.
So,
and interestingly enough, it's Mr. Collins who's listed below, whose name is not on the interested parties form.
What did they do? Leave Collins off somewhere?
They did on line number 1.
Yeah, you don't have anything to do with Jim Collins anyway. No, that needs to be corrected.
We'll get a new form with that.
Yeah, you need
I
to correct
think
that.
We don't deal
you're
with,
referring to is on the conflict of
it's on the
interest. Jim
conflict of
Collins'
interest,
name
yeah.
is there.
yeah, we'll make sure that one gets added on.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody dropped the ball on that in our office, apparently.
Okay.
They've always thought the name was too long anyway. I didn't since I was at the end of it.
No more questions. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Ms. Kilgore, were you able to do any other research, I guess, regarding the fees for other large urban entities regarding the hourly rate, since we're being asked to increase the rate from
On
current rate
the,
to $2.15?
on the law firms? Well, this is a standard rate for Purdue is the $2.15 at the other law firms that use Purdue. But again, it's based on the size of the district. The smaller ones, I think they allow them some differences because they do not have the issues that we have with, say, the refinery and some of the shopping centers that we deal with and some of the other issues. So, but I did check with other law firms, and all of the rates are real similar. some of them may start with a lower rate, but they add in an extra amount for a retainer fee. So it ends up to be a higher rate, like $175, then $100 for retainer. So then you're at $275 instead of $215. So we did find there's another firm that I talked to, but their number one client is a very large entity, and that's basically who they represent. There was a couple of others, but they do collections.
Okay, so none of the larger entities are paying less than $215?
No, sir.
I did have a question regarding legal counsel, and I think local legal counsel, I'm sorry, the local contracted counsel. I saw for fiscal year or calendar years 2017, cumulatively the expenses for that were about $260,000 for local legal counsel fees in 2017. That seemed a little high to me. I don't know what was included in that.
Mediations. The local attorney goes to every single mediation that we have, and before we have every lawsuit that we have filed against us, the courts, the judges have said you need to mediate. So we do a mediation, and the local counsel goes to those, and at every mediation we have, and of course sets up her file. We set up ours, and then she has her file set up, and she's with us. And those mediations can be all day long. We average, well, you figure 400-something lawsuits, and about half of them mediated. So far this year or last year. So you'll see a large number of that because of mediations. That takes a lot of time. And then the filing of the paperwork at the courthouse after the mediation. And working with the mediator, not just during the mediation between the taxpayer and their agent or lawyer and us. There's meetings before and after with the mediator to set all of this up.
So the mediation is in addition to an hourly fee, or she doesn't charge an hourly fee? Or
no, it's all part of that fee. So that amount that you see that the invoice, so I mean it is an hourly fee. So if she's there 8 hours, she's getting 8 hours of whatever.
Carmen charges the same we do, or she charges less?
She charges a little bit less.
Yeah.
She's at a less charge.
She's less charged.
I think it's
We
$150.
actually proposed to the board, without being asked, that we be allowed to retain a local counsel to reduce the expenses for El Paso CAD, because travel expenses are pretty high to here, especially after the city's dispute many years ago with Herb Keller, and they cut back on your airport access. It's a tremendous amount of travel time. And we simply proposed that we be allowed to obtain somebody through that process and in consultation with the board, and that's how. And there was somebody before Carmen Hegeman who actually did this as well that we initially retained, who also represented local governments and was familiar with it, and whose fees were in line. The fees that we charge are less than half of what opposing lawyers get for representing property owners as a rule, but we do volume work.
Carmen has also been asked, because being a local, having that local contact when they're doing the collections, attorney is going before the judges with collections. If there's issues over a lawsuit that we've currently in, then Carmen has to testify, of course, then we have to pay her fee for that.
Are we her only client?
She's with a firm. I don't. Yeah, Armendariz. We're not her only client. Yeah, she doesn't do any. I will say this: it's hard to find a local that her clients are government-based, because to have an attorney locally, it would have to be somebody that does business with no business people. Because business owners file lawsuits. So we wouldn't be able to use that attorney. Homeowners file lawsuits. Finding an attorney that has no conflict is very difficult. So that's why the attorneys that we do use do not have private clients. All their clients are public.
Well, I asked that because for $260,000, wouldn't it be cheaper to hire an in-house counsel? Because that's higher than the county attorney. That's higher than city attorney.
Well, we spent over the last 3 years, we did a survey, and on just attorney's fees, well, let's put it this way: out of the $1.17 million that we paid last year. Reports were $411,000. The rest of it was attorney's fees. So having $400,000 in the budget for an attorney that couldn't cover us on everything, we would have to really spend, because we'd have, with the expertise of our attorneys, we've got to go with the different companies. You know, we have another attorney that handles personnel issues. We have the law firm of Purdue and Brandon that handles all of our legal issues with all of the properties, and of course with all the big ones too. You know, so having a local one that could cover the refinery, we would have to go out and contract it. They looked into it in years past, and it was just not feasible. That doesn't mean we can't look at it again, but that's going to take a lot of work, and we'd have to go out and get a lot of quotes and talk to a lot of people. And at this time, you know, it's going to take more time than what we have.
There are districts that do that, Commissioner. There are. Harris County has in-house, a very large in-house law component that does some things. They can produce enough work for specialized work. They have one person that just does exemptions. They have lawyers that actually now do court work that are on staff, and they still have a huge amount of legal fees outside the district. The biggest problem usually is finding somebody with the expertise that can handle it and be of real assistance to you. Harris County has that. Bayer County implemented this type, you know, using, they still have outside counsel, but they also have inside counsel. It is something that is not unheard of and is done. Travis County also does that. So there are other appraisal districts who do employ in-house counsel. It's not unheard of.
But they also contract. They do both. So, I mean, that is something we can definitely look at.
Oh, yeah, they all do both.
Yeah. All of them will use a law firm along with the in-house attorneys. So, I mean, it is something that we can look at, and we can get some information and build it into our budget next year and get you some more information. I have no idea. We'd have to advertise throughout the state for an in-house. It'd have to be somebody that has no private clients. In an in-house, they would not be allowed to have any other clients but us. There is one new lawyer that asked us about it, but he's a tax agent also, and he represents property owners. And, you know, just coming out of law school, and he was wanting 300,000 plus. Plus, he wanted to be able to have that on the side. And I'm like, no, it's got to be, you can't do that. So he is strictly a lawyer for property owners, tax agents.
If we were to go out for a request for proposals to get, I guess, some competitive bids or just general proposals from other firms, what would that do under the existing contract? Is there an evergreen clause in the existing contract?
No, I don't believe there is.
No.
It's an open end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, there's nothing in there that that requires you to take action. You have the authority, if you wish, to go out and look at any of these matters as a board.
Sure. I mean, that's given the just the significant amount